Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our inquisitive viewers, Jonathan Kim. Thanks for your curiosity, Jonathan. You asked, why are watches worn on the left hand? If you've ever slipped on a watch and thought, why is this the default? You're not alone. From historical quirks to practical design choices, there's more to this tradition than meets the eye. So if you've ever wondered why the left wrist gets all the attention, or if the right wrist feels left out, stick around as we unravel the history, logic, and a sprinkle of humor behind this timeless habit, right here on Explaining Everything. Let's start with a little history. Wristwatches, believe it or not, weren't always the staple of fashion and function they are today. In fact, before the early 20th century, they were seen as delicate accessories for women. Men stuck to pocket watches because apparently real men pulled out tiny clocks from their vests every 5 minutes. But then came World War I. Soldiers needed something practical to keep track of time in the trenches. No offense, pocket watches, but fumbling for you while dodging bullets wasn't ideal. Enter the wristwatch, the rugged new kid on the block. But why the left hand? Well, most people are right-handed, about 90% to be precise. And here's the thing about being right-handed. Your right hand is always busy, writing, eating, waving enthusiastically, or just existing in a more coordinated state. The left hand, meanwhile, has been relegated to sidekick status. So, wearing a watch on the left wrist meant less risk of accidental bumps, scrapes, or, you guessed it, shattering your precious new timepiece while gesturing wildly about how the trenches are no place for a pocket watch. But wait, there's more! Watches back then had to be manually wound every day, a task that requires a bit of dexterity. If you're right-handed, it's much easier to wind a watch on your left wrist using your dominant hand. This setup was a match made in ergonomic heaven. Sure, lefties might have gotten the short end of the stick, but hey, they're used to that, right? Scissors, spiral notebooks, can openers. The world isn't exactly designed for the southpaws among us. Now, let's fast forward to the era of quartz watches and smartphones. Watches today don't need winding, and we're not exactly using them to synchronize trench raids anymore. So why stick to the left wrist? Tradition, my friends. Humans are creatures of habit. Once we've decided something is the way, we're more likely to debate pineapple on pizza than question why our watches live on our left hands. There's also the matter of convenience. Think about it. When you're writing, typing, or juggling flaming torches, hey, I don't know your hobbies, your dominant hand is busy. Having your watch on the opposite wrist makes it easy to check the time without interrupting the masterpiece or the fire-juggling act you're working on. And let's not forget the style factor. Watch manufacturers have been catering to left wrist wearers for over a century. The placement of the crown, that little knob for setting the time, is almost always on the right side of the watch face. This design is perfect for right-handed folks wearing their watch on the left wrist. Try flipping it around, and suddenly you're twisting your wrist into a pretzel just to adjust the time. Sure, some companies make lefty watches, but they're about as common as unicorn sightings. Of course, there are always rebels in the mix. some people do wear their watches on the right hand. Maybe they're left-handed, maybe they're making a fashion statement, or maybe they just like to keep us guessing. These mavericks remind us that rules are meant to be broken, or at least bent into questionably ergonomic shapes. Now, if you're wondering, does it really matter which wrist my watch is on? The answer is no. The watch police aren't going to kick down your door and confiscate your timepiece, but the tradition persists because it works. It's practical, it's comfortable, and let's face it, it looks good. Plus, it's a great conversation starter. Next time someone compliments your watch, hit them with a history lesson. You'll look sophisticated, and they'll be too impressed to notice you've been late 3 times this week. So, to recap, watches are worn on the left hand because most people are right-handed, and it's easier, safer, and just plain logical. The tradition dates back to a time when watches were as fragile as a teenager's ego, and winding them required actual effort. Over time, it became a norm, a style choice, and let's be honest, a way to subtly declare, yes, I am punctual, or at least I aspire to be. In a world where wristwatches are less about telling time and more about making a statement, wearing one on your left wrist is like a secret handshake with history. So go ahead, strap on your timepiece with pride, on whichever wrist you choose. And remember, no matter where you wear it, you're right on time to embrace a little slice of tradition. Or at least, fashionably late. And let's not forget, watches today are as much about style and self-expression as they are about keeping track of time. Whether you're wearing a smartwatch to track your steps, a classic timepiece for a touch of sophistication, or just something that looks good for Instagram, the left wrist tradition still holds strong. So whether you're a die-hard left wrist wearer or a right-handed rebel with a wristwatch on the right, remember, it's all about personal style and making that statement. So go ahead, wear your watch with pride and maybe a little flair, because at the end of the day, time's on your side. And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into the curious case of left wrist watch wearing. If you enjoyed uncovering this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another fun exploration into the everyday things we all take for granted. And if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.